So Vincent made me stand there in our apartment hallway while he literally sniffed my work scrubs like some kind of deranged bloodhound because I took an extra 10 minutes at the Acme. 10 minutes. I was stuck behind this lady with like 40 coupons and he's standing there going, "Who were you really with?" and demanding to smell my clothes for another man's cologne. What cologne? But there I was at 7 p.m., arms out like I'm being searched at airport security while my boyfriend of 3 years sniffed my shoulders and kept asking why I took so long. The coupons lady. That's why I took so long. But he pulled up his stupid app that tracks my location and showed me that I'd been stationary in the parking lot for 4 minutes after leaving the store, so clearly I must have been meeting someone. I was putting groceries in my trunk. In November rain. It takes a minute. But no, I had to pull up my bank statement on my phone right there to prove I'd only been to Acme, show him the receipt with the timestamp, and explain why I'd paused in the parking lot. And you know what? I did it. I explained everything like it was completely normal for a grown woman to have to prove she went grocery shopping. This is my life now. This is what I've been doing for 2 years. It started so slowly I didn't even notice I was drowning. Vincent's ex Ashley cheated on him 3 years ago. And I mean, she really did him dirty. Like screwing his former roommate kind of dirty. When we started dating in late 2021, he was still pretty messed up about it. He'd make these comments about how he never saw it coming, how she'd lied so easily, how he wished he'd paid more attention to the signs. I felt bad for him. He seemed so hurt and vulnerable, and I wanted to show him that not all women are like that. I wanted to be the one who proved that you could trust again. So when he asked if he could have my Instagram password a few months in, because it would make him feel more secure, I gave it to him. When he suggested I share my location with him so he wouldn't worry when I was driving home late from work, I did it. When he got anxious about me having guy friends and said it would mean a lot if I created some distance there, I did that too. Every single time he asked for something to help him feel safe, I said yes because I loved him and I wanted him to heal. But here's the thing about giving someone an inch. They will take the entire I-95 corridor. I work near Center City and my schedule is the same every week. Monday through Thursday, 7:30 a.m. to 5 p.m., with an hour lunch break at noon. Vincent knows this. He's known this for 3 years. But 6 months ago, he started calling me during my lunch break, demanding I video call him so he could see where I was. Not just a quick check-in call, a full video call where he wanted to see the restaurant or the break room or wherever I was eating. He said it was just to say hi, just because he missed me. But his eyes would scan the background looking for, I don't even know what. Male coworkers? Random men? Evidence that I was lying about eating a sandwich in my car? The first time he asked, I thought it was kind of weird but also maybe sweet. Like he missed me? But then it became every single day. If I didn't answer within 2 rings, he'd start texting. Where are you? Why aren't you picking up? What are you doing that you can't answer? And I'd be literally chewing and I'd have to drop everything to video call him and show him I was just eating lunch. My coworker Nora started noticing. She'd see me frantically answering these video calls and she finally asked me straight up if everything was okay at home. I made excuses. He's just protective. He just loves me. He just has trauma from his ex. She gave me this look like she wanted to say more but didn't. Then there's the phone thing. Every single night before bed, Vincent goes through my phone, and I mean through it. Text messages, Instagram DMs, Snapchat, WhatsApp, even my work email. He scrolls through everything from the entire day. If I got a text from a guy, doesn't matter if it's my boss Ricky asking or my cousin Hector sending a meme, Vincent needs a full explanation. Who is this? Why are they texting you? What do they want? Show me previous messages with them. I tried to push back on this exactly one time about 8 months ago. I told him I felt like he didn't trust me and that going through my phone every night was making me feel anxious. He completely broke down, started crying, said he knew he was being crazy but he couldn't help it, that Ashley had destroyed his ability to trust, that if I really loved him, I'd understand he needed this right now. He promised he was working on it. He swore he'd get better. And like an idiot, I believed him and apologized for bringing it up. It's gotten worse since then, not better. He times my commute now. My drive from the work to our apartment should take 23 minutes according to Google Maps. If I take longer than 30 minutes, I get interrogated. Traffic? Show me proof. Stopped for gas? Show me the receipt. Had to run into CVS? What did you buy and why didn't you tell me you were stopping? It's like being on house arrest except I never committed a crime. I've cut off every male friend I had. My buddy from high school, Gregory, who I used to grab lunch with sometimes, gone. The guy friends from my yoga class at the gym, stopped going to that class entirely. My neighbor in our apartment building who I'd sometimes chat with by the mailboxes, I literally cross the street now if I see him coming. Vincent said maintaining friendships with guys while in a relationship was disrespectful, and that if I really cared about his feelings, I'd prioritize our relationship over random friendships. And here's the most pathetic part. I did. I actually did all of it. My little sister Julia is a junior at Temple, and she started asking questions. Last month we met up at Chick-fil-A near campus, and I had to video call Vincent in the middle of lunch to prove I was actually with her and not secretly meeting a guy. Julia watched this happen with her mouth literally hanging open. After I hung up, she goes, "What the actual hell was that?" And I tried to laugh it off. She wasn't laughing. She told me this wasn't normal. that this was controlling and weird, and I needed to wake up. I got defensive. Told her she didn't understand because she's never been in a serious relationship. She left looking genuinely scared for me. My mom has noticed too. During Sunday dinner at my parents' house a few weeks ago, Vincent called me 3 times during the meal. 3 times. We were there for like 2 hours, and he needed to know what time we ate, what we were eating, who else was there, what we were talking about. My dad finally said something. Told Vincent maybe he should focus on his own evening and let me enjoy time with my family. Vincent got super quiet and tense. Later in the car, he told me my dad was disrespectful, and maybe we should skip the next few Sunday dinners. We haven't been back since. The grocery store thing yesterday, though, that broke something in me. Standing there with my arms out while my boyfriend sniffed my clothes because I took too long buying chicken and pasta. I caught a glimpse of us in the hallway mirror, and I didn't even recognize myself. When did I become this person? When did I accept this as normal? After he finished his sniff inspection and determined I was telling the truth, he just went into the living room and turned on the TV like nothing weird had just happened. Asked what I was making for dinner, and I stood there in that hallway with my grocery bag still on the floor, and something clicked. This isn't love. This isn't protection or care or even paranoia from past trauma. This is control. This is prison. I have a GPS tracker on me 24/7. My phone gets searched daily. I can't have male friends. I can't take an extra 5 minutes anywhere without an interrogation, and I just let my boyfriend smell me for evidence of cheating. What the hell have I been doing for 2 years? I made dinner. We ate. He told me the pasta was a little overcooked. Then he took my phone for his nightly scroll through while we watched TV. I sat there watching him read through every single message, and I realized I felt nothing. No love, no affection, just this hollow, tired feeling. This morning I went to work like normal, but the whole time I was thinking about that hallway moment, about my sister's face, about my dad's comment, about Nora's concerned looks. During my lunch break, Vincent called for the daily video check-in. I stared at my phone ringing, and for the first time in 2 years, I let it go to voicemail. He called back immediately. I didn't answer. Then the text started. Where are you? Why aren't you answering? What's going on? Are you okay? Call me back right now. I turned my phone face down on my lap and ate my sandwich in my car in the parking lot. And something about that small act of defiance felt absolutely wild. My hands were shaking. My heart was pounding. All because I didn't answer a lunchtime video call. When I finally looked at my phone, I had 14 missed calls and 31 text messages. The messages got progressively more frantic and then angry. The last one said, "If you don't call me back in the next 5 minutes, I'm driving to your office." I called him back. Told him I was in a procedure and couldn't answer. He asked why I didn't text him that. Why I left him hanging. Why I would ignore him when I know it makes him anxious. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I know I can't keep living like this. I can't keep being the woman who gets sniffed in hallways and has to prove she went grocery shopping. I can't keep sacrificing every friendship and every minute of freedom to manage someone else's insecurity. Something has to change. I just have no idea how to make it happen when I can't even take a lunch break without permission. Update. Okay, so the comments on my last post absolutely wrecked me in the best way possible. Everyone telling me this is abuse, that I need to leave, that this isn't normal. I know. But knowing something and actually doing something about it are 2 completely different things when you've spent 2 years conditioning yourself to accept insanity as normal. That lunch break thing where I didn't answer his video call, that was Thursday. By Friday morning, Vincent was acting like nothing had happened, but also watching me like a hawk. He kept asking if everything was okay, if I was mad at him, if something was bothering me. I kept saying no because I genuinely didn't know what to say. Like, what do you even say to someone when you suddenly realize your entire relationship is a control scheme? Friday after work, I stopped at the Target because we needed laundry detergent. Just laundry detergent. I texted Vincent that I was stopping, because apparently that's a thing I have to do now. And he immediately called. Not texted back. Called. Wanted to know which Target, what I was buying, how long I'd be. I told him maybe 15 minutes, and he goes, "Okay, but if you're longer than 20, I'm going to worry, so just keep me updated." I'm standing there in the cleaning supplies aisle having this conversation, and this older woman next to me is just staring. She heard the whole thing. When I hung up, she looked at me and goes, "Honey, is everything all right at home?" And I literally almost started crying in the middle of Target. I just grabbed the detergent and left. But here's where it gets worse. I got home in 18 minutes. I know because I was watching the clock like my life depended on it. And Vincent was sitting on the couch with his laptop open. He'd been tracking my location the entire time. He knew exactly when I'd left work, when I'd arrived at Target, how long I'd been inside, and when I'd gotten home. He showed me the little map with my route marked out and was like, "See, you made great time." Like he was congratulating me for completing a task efficiently. I just stood there holding this bottle of Tide and something in me snapped. I asked him why he needed to track me when I'd told him where I was going. He got this confused look and said he wasn't tracking me. He was just checking to make sure I was safe. I asked what the difference was. He said the difference is that tracking implies I don't trust you, but checking implies I care about you. I told him it feels exactly the same from where I'm standing. That's when he got upset. Started going on about how he's been trying so hard to work on his trust issues, how he's been doing so much better, how it's not fair for me to act like he's some kind of controlling monster when all he's doing is caring about my safety. He brought up Ashley again, said she used to get mad at him for asking questions too, and that's how he missed all the signs that she was cheating. Said he refuses to be that naive again. I told him I'm not Ashley. I've never been Ashley. I've spent 2 years proving I'm not Ashley, and it's never been enough. He got really quiet. Then he asked if I was trying to pick a fight with him, if I was looking for an excuse to break up with him, if there was someone else and this was my way of creating distance so I could cheat guilt-free. The audacity. I've given this man every password, every login, every second of my location data, cut off every male friend, video called him from my lunch breaks for 6 months straight, and he's asking if I'm trying to create distance so I can cheat. I told him that was insane. He said it wasn't insane, it was a legitimate question given that I was suddenly acting different. I asked him what different meant and he started listing things. You didn't answer my video call on Thursday. You seemed annoyed when I checked in about Target. You're being defensive right now. You haven't seemed as affectionate lately. I'm standing there listening to him build this case against me using normal human behavior as evidence, and I realized this is what he does. This is what he's been doing. Anytime I show even the slightest resistance to his surveillance, he flips it around and makes it about me being suspicious, makes it about me pulling away, makes it about me potentially cheating. And then I apologize and prove myself all over again. Not this time. I told him I needed some space to think. He asked what that meant. I said it meant exactly what it sounds like. I need space. He wanted to know if space meant we were breaking up, or if space meant I just needed a few hours or what because he needed clarity. I said I didn't know yet and he lost it. Started yelling about how I can't just say I need space without explaining what that means. How that's manipulative and unfair. How I'm punishing him for caring about me. How if I'm having doubts about us, then I need to say that clearly instead of being vague. I tried to leave the room and he followed me into our bedroom still yelling, asking where I was going, if I was going to stay with someone, who I was texting, why I was being like this. I grabbed my phone and my purse and told him I was going to my parents' house. He wanted to know for how long. I said I didn't know. He blocked the bedroom door and said we needed to finish this conversation first, that I couldn't just walk out in the middle of a fight. I told him to move and he said no, not until you tell me what's really going on. I pushed past him. He didn't physically restrain me, but he definitely didn't move easily. Got to my car and I had 6 texts before I even left the parking lot, asking where I was, when I'd be back, if I was really going to my parents or somewhere else, saying we needed to talk about this like adults, saying he deserved better than me just running away. I drove to my parents' house in Northeast Philly crying the entire way. Got there around 8 p.m. and my mom took one look at my face and pulled me inside. My dad was watching the Flyers game and he turned the TV off immediately, which never happens. They both just sat there while I ugly cried on their couch for 20 minutes. When I finally calmed down enough to talk, I told them everything. Not just the grocery store sniffing thing or the video calls, but everything. The phone checks every night. The location tracking, the timed commutes, cutting off my friends, the interrogations about male cashiers and coworkers, all of it. My dad's face went red, like I've never seen him that angry. He wanted to know why I hadn't told them sooner. My mom was crying. She kept asking how long this had been going on and seemed devastated that I'd been dealing with this for 2 years while they had no idea. I tried to explain that it happened gradually, that I didn't realize how bad it was until recently, that Vincent's ex really did cheat on him and I was trying to be understanding. My dad cut me off and said he doesn't give a damn about Vincent's ex. That's no excuse for treating me like a prisoner. My mom said trauma doesn't give someone the right to traumatize you. Then my phone started buzzing. Vincent was calling. I let it go to voicemail. He called back. I declined it. Then the texts started coming in rapid fire. Your dad's car is in the driveway, so I know you're there. Why aren't you answering? We need to talk about this. You can't just ignore me. This is childish. I'm worried about you. Please just answer the phone. My dad looked at my phone screen and goes, "He's tracking you right now?" And I nodded. He told me to turn off my location sharing immediately. I hesitated because the thought of Vincent not being able to see where I am made me anxious, and that's when I realized how messed up my thinking had become. I'm sitting in my parents' house scared to turn off location tracking because my boyfriend might get upset. My mom helped me go through my phone. We turned off location services for Find My Friends. We changed my Instagram password. My dad wanted me to block Vincent's number entirely. I stayed at my parents' house that night in my old bedroom. Vincent texted me 45 times. I counted. They ranged from apologetic to angry to confused to accusatory. Some highlights. I'm sorry if I upset you, but you're blowing this out of proportion. Your parents are poisoning you against me. If you need space, fine, but you need to communicate that properly. I can't believe you're doing this to me after everything we've been through. Are you with someone right now? Is that why you won't answer? Saturday morning, my mom made pancakes and we sat at their kitchen table while she and my dad told me I needed to end this relationship. That this wasn't love, this was abuse. That they'd been worried for months but didn't want to overstep. That they'd noticed me becoming more withdrawn and anxious but thought maybe I was just stressed from work. My sister Julia showed up around 10 a.m. Apparently, my mom had called her and filled her in. Julia was furious, kept saying she knew something was wrong, that she'd been telling me for months this wasn't normal. She wanted to know if Vincent had ever been physical with me, and I said no. But then I remembered him blocking the bedroom door and realized maybe that counted as physical intimidation even if he didn't hit me. But here's the thing. Knowing you need to leave someone and actually doing it are hard when you still have all your stuff in an apartment with them. When you share a lease. When part of you still feels guilty because he really was hurt by his ex, and maybe you're abandoning him when he needs support. Vincent showed up at my parents' house Saturday afternoon. I was in the living room with Julia when the doorbell rang. My dad answered it, and I heard Vincent's voice asking to see me. Heard my dad tell him now wasn't a good time. Vincent insisted that we needed to talk, that I couldn't just disappear and refuse to communicate. My dad said I'd talk to him when I was ready, and to please leave. Vincent raised his voice, said this was ridiculous, that I was his girlfriend and he had a right to see me, that my parents were interfering in our relationship. My dad told him to leave or he'd call the cops. Vincent must have seen me through the window because he started yelling my name, asking why I was doing this, saying he deserved an explanation, saying we could work through this if I'd just talk to him. Julia went to the window and closed the curtains. My mom sat next to me on the couch and held my hand. We sat there listening to Vincent yell from the front lawn for almost 10 minutes before he finally left. My dad watched through the window to make sure he actually got in his car and drove away. My dad asked if I wanted to file a restraining order. I said no, that seemed extreme. He looked at me like I was crazy and said, "May, the man just showed up uninvited, refused to leave, and screamed at you from our front lawn. That's not extreme, that's harassment." Sunday, my mom suggested I take the day to do something for myself. Get out of the house, clear my head, not think about Vincent for a few hours. Julia offered to take me to the art museum since I used to love going there. We walked around the exhibits for like 3 hours, and it was the first time in months I'd done something without having to check in with anyone or explain where I was going. My phone died halfway through and I didn't even panic. That's how controlled I'd become. My phone dying used to send me into complete anxiety because Vincent couldn't reach me. But yesterday I just enjoyed being unreachable. We stopped at Reading Terminal Market after for lunch and ran into Nora from my work. She was there with her husband getting cheesesteaks, and she took one look at my face and asked if I was okay. I guess I looked pretty rough. Julia excused herself to give us privacy, and Nora asked if this was about Vincent. I asked how she knew, and she said she'd had a boyfriend exactly like him in college, that she recognized the signs immediately. The constant video calls, the anxiety whenever my phone rang, the way I'd jump to answer. She said she'd wanted to say something but didn't want to overstep, and now she felt guilty for not speaking up sooner. I told her it wasn't her fault, that I probably wouldn't have listened anyway. She gave me her number and told me if I needed anything, a place to stay, someone to talk to, help moving my stuff, to call her. Said her husband has a truck and they'd help me move out whenever I was ready. That offer made me realize I actually have to do this. I can't just hide at my parents' house forever. I have to go back to that apartment and get my things. I have to actually end this relationship, not just avoid it. Last update. I went to work Monday morning and Vincent was waiting in the parking lot. I pulled into my usual spot at 7:15 a.m. and there he was, leaning against his car with 2 coffees from Wawa, like this was some romantic gesture. When he saw me, he held up one of the cups and smiled like we were just a normal couple having a normal Monday morning. I sat in my car for a solid minute trying to decide what to do. Part of me wanted to just drive away, but I had clients scheduled and I wasn't going to let him ruin my job. So I got out and walked straight toward the office entrance without acknowledging him. He followed me, started talking about how he'd been up all night thinking about us, how he'd brought my favorite coffee as a peace offering, how he really wanted to talk before I went into work. I told him I had nothing to say to him right now, and he grabbed my arm. Not hard, not violently, but he grabbed me. And when I looked down at his hand on my arm and then back up at his face, something shifted in me. I yanked my arm away and told him to never touch me again. He looked genuinely shocked, like he hadn't even realized what he'd done. Started apologizing immediately, saying he was just trying to get my attention, that he didn't mean anything by it. I walked into the office and he didn't follow me inside, thank God. But I could see him through the window sitting in his car, just sitting there, watching the building. Nora noticed immediately when I came in, asked if that was Vincent outside, and I said yes. She looked out the window, looked back at me, and told Ricky we had a situation. Within 5 minutes, Dr. Ricky had gone outside and told Vincent he needed to leave or he'd call the police. Vincent tried to argue that he was just waiting for me, that we needed to talk. Ricky told him this was private property and he was making staff uncomfortable. Vincent finally left, but not before texting me that this was humiliating and unnecessary. Around 11 a.m., my mom called. Vincent had shown up at their house again. My dad had told him through the door that I wasn't there and he needed to stop coming by. Vincent had apparently stood on the porch, insisting he just wanted to return some of my things, that he wasn't trying to cause problems. My dad told him to leave the stuff on the porch and go. Vincent refused, said he wanted to hand them to me personally so we could at least have a civil conversation. My dad called the police. Vincent left before they arrived but filed a report anyway. The officer told my parents that if Vincent came back, they could pursue a restraining order, but right now it was just a domestic dispute and Vincent technically hadn't broken any laws. That pissed me off. He was stalking me, showing up at my work, showing up at my parents' house repeatedly, refusing to leave me alone, but apparently that's just a domestic dispute. During my lunch break, I called Julia and told her I needed to get my stuff out of the apartment, that I couldn't keep avoiding this. She said she'd skip her afternoon classes and meet me there with Mom. I texted Nora and she said she and her husband Greg could meet us at 6 p.m. with their truck. I finished work and drove straight to the apartment. My hands weren't shaking. My stomach wasn't flipping. I was just done. Done with being scared. Done with avoiding confrontation. Done with letting Vincent control my life even after I'd already decided to leave. Julia and my mom were already there when I arrived around 5:30. Vincent's car wasn't in the parking lot, which I thought meant we might actually get lucky and do this without a scene. We went upstairs and I used my key to let us in. The apartment was a mess. Like Vincent had torn through it looking for something. Drawers open, closet doors hanging wide, stuff pulled out of cabinets. There were printed screenshots of text conversations taped to the walls. My text conversations with Julia, with Nora, with my parents. He'd gone through my phone during one of his nightly inspections and printed out anything that mentioned him or our relationship. My mom stood in the middle of the living room looking at these papers taped everywhere and just goes, "What in the actual hell?" And I couldn't even answer her because I was reading them. There was the conversation where Julia called him controlling. The texts where my mom asked if I was okay. Messages where Nora asked about the video calls. All of it printed out and displayed like evidence in a murder investigation. Julia started ripping them down. Told me to start packing my bedroom stuff while she and Mom handled this. I went into our bedroom and that's when I saw my laptop open on the bed. Vincent had been going through my search history. I could see the browser tab still open. Articles about emotional abuse, posts about controlling relationships, pages about how to leave safely. He knew. He'd known since probably Saturday that I was planning to leave and he'd been going through everything trying to figure out how to stop it. I started throwing clothes into garbage bags. Didn't even fold them, just grabbed armfuls and shoved them in. My mom came in with my work scrubs and started helping. We worked fast and didn't talk much. Julia was in the living room packing up my books and photos. We'd been there maybe 20 minutes when I heard the door open. Vincent came into the apartment and just stopped when he saw all three of us there with garbage bags full of my stuff. He looked at me and goes, "So this is really it then?" And I told him yes. He wanted to know if we could talk alone, without my family there. I said no. He asked why I was being like this, why I couldn't just have a mature conversation with him without an audience. I told him we were way past mature conversations, that I was taking my things and leaving and he could deal with the lease however he wanted. He started walking toward me and Julia stepped between us, told him to back up. He ignored her and kept talking to me about how I was overreacting, how everyone fights, how we just needed some space to cool down and then we could work through this. I asked him if he thought taping my private conversations to the walls was normal, if he thought tracking my every movement was normal, if he thought showing up at my work and my parents' house repeatedly was normal. He said he only did those things because I was shutting him out, because I wouldn't talk to him, because he was desperate to understand what was happening. Classic. Somehow this was all my fault for not communicating properly. My mom cut in and told Vincent he needed to let us finish packing and leave. He said this was his apartment too, and he had a right to be here. She said fine, but he needs to stay out of our way. He sat down on the couch and just watched us pack. It was the most uncomfortable thing I've ever experienced. Nora and Greg showed up with the truck around 6:15. Vincent's whole energy changed when another man entered the apartment. He stood up and wanted to know who Greg was. I told him he was helping me move. Vincent said he didn't appreciate strangers in his home going through his things. Greg very calmly said he was only here to carry boxes and had no interest in anyone's things. We started loading stuff into the truck. It took 3 trips up and down the stairs. Vincent followed us on every single trip making comments, asking if I was really going to take the coffee maker we'd bought together, pointing out which furniture was his and which was mine, saying he couldn't believe I was doing this over something so small. Small. He called 2 years of surveillance and control small. On the last trip down, I grabbed my box of bathroom stuff and Vincent blocked the doorway. Said we needed to talk before I left, that he deserved a real conversation about what went wrong, that after years together, I owed him that much. I told him I didn't owe him anything, that I'd given him 2 years of complete access to my entire life and it was never enough, that he'd taken a relationship and turned it into a surveillance operation, that I was done proving myself innocent when I'd never committed a crime. He started crying. Actually crying, saying he loved me, that he'd never meant to make me feel controlled, that everything he did was because he was scared of losing me. Said if I'd just come back inside, we could talk about boundaries, about what needs to change, about how to move forward. I asked him if he seriously thought boundaries would fix this. If he thought I could trust him to respect any boundary when he'd spent 2 years breaking down every single one I tried to set. He said that wasn't fair, that I'd agreed to all of it, that I'd given him my passwords and my location willingly. And he was right. I had agreed to it. Because he'd manipulated every single request into a test of my love and faithfulness. Because he'd made me believe that if I really loved him, I'd prove it by giving up my privacy. Because he'd convinced me that normal relationship boundaries were actually signs of having something to hide. I told him all of that. Told him that agreeing to something under manipulation isn't the same as consent. that I'd spent 2 years trying to heal his trauma while he traumatized me, that I was done sacrificing myself to manage his insecurity. Julia lost it. Told Vincent he was delusional if he thought any of his behavior was normal. That showing up at someone's workplace and their family's home repeatedly is stalking. That sniffing your girlfriend's clothes for cologne is unhinged. That timing commutes and demanding video calls during lunch breaks is controlling. Vincent told her to stay out of it, that this was between us. She said it stopped being just between us when he started harassing the whole family. Greg stepped forward and suggested Vincent move away from the door. Vincent looked at him, and for a second I thought he might actually try to fight. But then he just stepped aside and goes, "You're going to regret this." Not in a threatening way. More like a prediction. Like he genuinely believed that one day I'd wake up and realize I'd made a huge mistake leaving him. I walked out with my last box and didn't look back. We got everything loaded and I drove to my parents' house with my mom. Julia and Greg and Nora followed with the truck. We unloaded everything into my old bedroom and my parents' garage, and by 9 p.m., I was sitting on my childhood bed surrounded by garbage bags full of my life. Vincent texted me 89 times that night. I read every single one. And then I blocked his number. Blocked him on Instagram, Snapchat, WhatsApp, everything. Changed all my passwords again. Turned off any location sharing I might have missed. My dad helped me go through my phone settings to make sure there weren't any tracking apps I didn't know about. That was Monday night. Tuesday I went to work and Vincent wasn't there. Wednesday I went to work and he wasn't there either. Thursday afternoon he showed up at my parents' house while I was at work. Left a bag of my things on the porch with a note that said, "I'll always love you and I hope someday you'll realize what we had." What we had was him controlling every aspect of my existence while I convinced myself it was love. Friday my dad and I went to the courthouse and I filed for a protection from abuse order. The clerk asked me if Vincent had ever hit me and I said no. She asked if he'd threatened me and I said not directly. She asked what the basis for the order was and I told her about the location tracking, the showing up at my work and my parents' house multiple times, the refusal to accept that the relationship was over, the phone surveillance, the isolation from friends. She approved a temporary order. Vincent has a hearing scheduled for next month where he can contest it if he wants. My mom thinks he'll show up and try to convince the judge that I'm overreacting. My dad thinks he'll realize he's beat and leave me alone. Julia thinks he'll violate the order within a week. Nora thinks he'll find a way to blame me for everything and somehow make himself the victim. I don't know what he'll do. What I do know is that for the first time in 2 years, my phone isn't being searched every night. I can stop at Target without timing myself. I can eat lunch without a video call. I can talk to male coworkers without preparing an explanation. I can exist without surveillance. So yeah, I left. I'm staying at my parents' house until I can find my own apartment. I'm going to therapy next week. I'm reconnecting with Gregory and the friends I cut off. I'm learning to exist without someone monitoring my every move. And to everyone who commented on my first post telling me to run, thank you. You were right. This wasn't love. It was never love. It was control dressed up as caring, surveillance disguised as security, and isolation packaged as protecting the relationship. I'm out, and I'm staying out.